Once upon a time, in a peaceful little village, there was a man called David. Everyone in the village knew David as a truly decent person. He was respectful, gentle, and always willing to lend a hand to anyone who needed help. David earned his living as a carpenter. He crafted windows, chairs, and simple pieces of furniture for the villagers. Because of his skill and his friendly personality, the people around him had complete faith in him. David's life seemed ordinary, but deep inside, he hid something nobody else could see. Years before, David had gotten married to a woman named Sarah. Sarah was tender and loving. She had a soft voice and cared for her loved ones more than anything. David and Sarah made their home in a tiny cottage on the outskirts of the village. The cottage wasn't large, but it was neat and filled with warmth. Together, they had 2 kids, a boy named Tom and a girl named Rose. Sarah believed her world was complete. David went to work each morning, returned every evening, and played with the kids. Sarah had total trust in him. She never imagined he could deceive her. A few years later, David crossed paths with another woman named Clara. Clara was unlike Sarah. She was bold, self-assured, and taught children at the village school. David first met her when he went to repair some broken desks. In the beginning, they only spoke as acquaintances. Little by little, their bond grew deeper. David never mentioned to Clara that he already had a wife. He told her he was single and lived by himself. After a while, David proposed to Clara. She said yes, believing she was the only woman in his life. They got married in secret. Clara had her own place in a different section of the village, in a bigger home close to the school. She knew nothing about Sarah or the children. Now David was living a double life. During the work week, he stayed with Sarah and their kids. On the weekends, he spent time with Clara. Whenever one of them questioned him, David always had a reason ready. I've got extra projects. I need to go away for business. A buddy of mine needs my help. Both women believed him. For quite some time, David thought he could hide this forever. But as time went on, things started to shift. Sarah began to realize that David was frequently gone on weekends. Clara started to notice that David was never available on weekdays. Both of them sensed something unusual, but neither knew what was really happening. David's kids were also getting older. They started asking him more about his jobs and his trips. Still, the truth stayed buried. One afternoon, David told them he had to leave for what he called an important, long-term job while he was gone. Sarah overheard someone mention a gathering at Clara's place. The person said David was often seen helping the teacher living there. Sarah felt a strange mix of worry and curiosity. She made a decision to go and see for herself. She told her children she was visiting someone and walked toward the house near the school. When the front door swung open, 2 separate worlds collided. Clara answered. The 2 women stared at each other without saying a word. Sarah was the first to speak. Hello, I'm Sarah. I know David. I just came by to say hi. Clara smiled gently. I'm Clara. I'm David's wife. Sarah's heart sank. His wife? She whispered in disbelief. Yes, Clara replied. We've been married for several years. Sarah's hands started trembling. But I'm his wife too, Sarah murmured. We have 2 children. Clara went completely white. Bit by bit, they began sharing their stories. They talked about his routines, his explanations, the promises he'd made. Everything lined up perfectly. There was no room for doubt. The 2 women sat together for what felt like forever. Tears fell. They felt betrayed, heartbroken, and humiliated. They finally understood David had lied to both of them all along. Eventually, Sarah got to her feet. We need to face him together, Clara agreed, wiping the tears from her face. Later that evening, David came back. The moment he stepped inside, he stopped cold. Sarah and Clara were standing right there side by side. We know the whole truth, Sarah said, her voice steady. David opened his mouth to explain, but nothing came out. You lied to both of us, Clara said softly but firmly. You destroyed our trust. David hung his head low. I I thought I loved you both, he whispered. But love built on lies isn't real love, Sarah responded. That very night, both women walked away. They couldn't forgive what he'd done. David was left behind in that empty house. For the first time, there were no more stories to tell, no more excuses to give. He finally understood, but it was too late. A life built on deception will always crumble. David lost everything he'd tried so hard to hold on to, and he learned something painful. Love must have honesty. Without truth, love cannot last. Thank you for watching. If this story inspired you, please like the video and share it with someone who needs hope. Subscribe to English Reflections for more simple stories and daily motivation.